Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Classis and Company wrap-up for George Eliot's Middlemarch. Today we are joined by Kim, who was the co-host for this read-along. We'll just get things started off right away. Kim, would you mind just giving us your sort of concluding thoughts on the book as a whole, just sort of your opinion?
Sure. As everybody knows, I have changed my channel name a few years back after I read it for the first time because I absolutely adore this book. And this was the third reread for me. Middlemarch is broken up into 8 books, and George Eliot wrote it that way because she was making money off the serialization of Middlemarch. So it appeared publicly in magazines in 8 different pieces. And it starts off with the story of Dorothea Brooke, but in actuality, Eliot was writing Tertius Lydgate's story first. And each book connects together, so it's not like each of the 8 books is a different character. They're all interlinked. It's all the same plot, all the same storyline. But Middlemarch is this little provincial English town in the English countryside, and it's a bunch of different families. And what Eliot does really well is she writes about poor families, rich families, middle class families, farmers, aristocrats, gentlemen, ladies. She writes about all different classes of people, and Middlemarch is no exception. There are massive country estates. There are women that don't inherit anything from their parents and from any inheritances. That was the law. And the book is set in the 1830s, right in the historical time of the, I forgot the name of the act. Mike, I don't know if you remember that,
Is
but
it the Reform Act?
The what?
The Reform Act?
The Reform Act, thank you.
Okay.
It's set during the Reform Act, so there's a lot of political storyline in the book. And it basically was getting the regular man the right to vote instead of the aristocrats and the wealthy aristocracy, but not for women. So women were still not allowed to inherit, they were not allowed to vote. So Middlemarch is about that town of people. And Dorothea Brooke is our initial protagonist. She's a 19-year-old girl, very pious, very religious, and she is looking for a bigger purpose in life. But because she has nothing more to do except get married, she wants to attach herself to an important man that will use her as a secretary, as a muse, as whatever she can do to learn from her husband. And she ends up marrying a man more than twice her age, who is the minister of the local church, has his own estate, and she believes he's doing some very important research and very important writing, and she wants to be a part of that. On the other side is Tertius Lydgate, who is a new resident to Middlemarch, and he is a doctor. But he is a newfangled doctor. He's bringing ideas to Middlemarch that nobody appreciates because he's the type of doctor that wants to actually heal people instead of giving them tonics and potions and so-called medicines that don't work. And so he's expecting to get paid for this when the Middlemarch doctors who are already established are basically getting paid to hand out tonics that do nothing. And so their stories, I think, are the strongest. And then along with that, we have all different other families. The Vinceys, the Bulstrodes, the Featherstones, and the Garth family. It's just wildly connected. And George Eliot is a realist novelist. So these are the stories of real people's lives. And it can be very emotional. She is hilarious. She's very satirical. She is extremely intellectual and writes about everything beautifully, whether it's relationships, the English countryside, politics, family dynamics. It's just fantastic. I absolutely love this book. So I don't know if you could tell.
No,
Absolutely.
we didn't really notice that in the chat. No, no, we really want to thank you for your engagement in the chat. I was really on Discord. That was really wonderful.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we learned a lot.
Yep.
What I really appreciate about George Eliot is that she with one line, you already know what type of person this is she introduces. And
Exactly.
she does it almost always very, how do you call it, witty. So
Yep.
a punch of humor that is so it's like Richie Gervais in the on the
That's a good analogy, yeah.
I mean, yeah, it was for me, it was a first read. It was a wonderful discovery. I really enjoyed her writing. I like realist authors, and yeah, it was for me a realization that although this was set in almost yeah, 1830, almost 200 years ago, that
Right.
people haven't changed at all.
Yes,
In a way,
Yeah.
exactly.
they want to be lied at by their doctor. Here's a pill and
Right.
you heal, but maybe not. Or if they have to undergo a cancer treatment, some prefer to have potions and lotions.
Right.
Actually, not much has changed. And also the people that really mean well are often not appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
That's still the case. That hasn't changed at all. And like, I think like when you see the world now, we don't even have a middle class. We have an upper class and a lower class in a way.
Right. I agree.
And now we are not owned by the landowners, but by high-tech companies.
Right.
And yeah, it's the world has shifted, but yet it's still the same. So it's just the power comes from other people with money and not
Right.
exactly land.
Right.
So yeah, it's a very good book to read and to make you think about life now and about the power dynamics now, because they have changed and now we all can vote, but nothing really has changed in a way that we vote for politicians, but the politicians are owned by big companies. And
Right.
if the big companies say, well, you won't be doing this or that law will not pass, you have enough people in Washington and in Brussels that lobby to have their will enforced in a way, with a lot of money under the table. So
yeah,
I think it's for me, I was surprised by the accuracy and by the tone of voice that didn't feel old at all. It didn't feel like it was written 200 years ago. Although people rode in carriages, they still felt like very real, and you could see them in your village. You see those people in your village if you know the people. So I really appreciated this book, and I'm glad we invited you for this read along. It was
too.
Wonderful.
Yeah. One of the things that Eliot also does in most of her books, most of her novels, is she models her characters against people in her real life. And so Caleb Garth was modeled after her father, who was an estate manager, and she was actually born on an estate that her father managed. And Dorothea Brooke, I think, was modeled after one of her early tutors who was very religious. And then you have the two different ministers. You have Casaubon and Fairbrother. And Fairbrother was more of a normal person, a normal guy who truly cared about people, who still did normal person stuff. He had the butterflies and his bugs and his collections of things. And then you look at him compared to Casaubon, who is dry and lacks any humor and any empathy, actually, and is working on this project that absolutely nobody will ever see or care about. And so she is wonderful at incorporating her life into her novels, and that's one of the things I absolutely love about what she does.
Yeah, well, if you copy people, real life people, in a way, that's the way to keep things relevant. If you
Yeah.
imagine a person that you have never met, I think it's more difficult to relate to. Maybe later on in years when you read a book like that. So yeah, it was wonderful. And well, when was the first time you've read Middlemarch?
I've been on BookTube for 4 years, and it was in my first year that, I knew who George Elliot was, but I had never bothered to pick up Middlemarch or had any desire to. And I saw so many booktubers who were reading it and just gushing over it. And Middlemarch was one of my first buddy reads that I ever had. And
fun.
just, huh?
Oh, I was just commenting on it. It's a good first buddy read book.
Absolutely. And I read it with Elba from Seriella. She doesn't make content anymore, but we read Middlemarch and then immediately went to our second buddy read of Daniel Deronda. And I think there are times I'm not sure which book I love more, but Middlemarch is still number one.
Is Daniel Deronda also a book you would advise to read as when somebody comes to you, which George Elliot should I read first?
Usually I say either Mill on the Floss or Silas Marner. Silas Marner is the shortest, and I think I was assigned that book in high school. And it's very short, it's easy to understand. Mill on the Floss is a true family story, brother and sister relationship and family dynamics. I also really love that book. Daniel Deronda and Romola are two of her more complex novels, and Daniel Deronda makes a lot of sense if you are familiar with religion and Judaism, because there are extremely heavy Jewish themes in Daniel Deronda. And when I read it, I have a religious background, so I understood what I was reading. But I can't imagine that a normal classics lover who doesn't have a religious background would be able to get a lot of the nuance and the facts behind it.
Oh, there's a fourth person popping up.
Oh.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh, where is he?
Uh-oh. Mr. Six-Pack Steve.
Dun, dun, dun.
Slowly making his
slowly
way.
I am very slowly making
there he is.
There he is.
We still can't see you. You have to put on your video.
Yeah, put on your video.
Just hear your voice.
Meanwhile, I want to talk about the elephant in the room. There's a big one.
Me too.
Micah.
Me too. Micah Cummins.
Yes, I'm the elephant.
Deanna.
I did not make it through on the reading. I've stopped. I think I was about 20% of the way through. And it really was nothing to do with the book at all. It was more completely to do with my personal headspace where I was at the time of the reading. And I am planning on finishing. I'll just be very, very late.
Now, are you being honest? Because if you don't like it, that's okay to talk about. I'm not gonna hit you or anything.
No, it really is. It's one of those cases where
Steve? There he is.
Oh, there he is.
What about an introduction?
Okay, all right.
Oh, there he is.
Micah is saved by Steve.
Welcome. No, I will continue.
No, we're still going to go to the elephant in the room for sure.
I am owning it.
But it happens often. I have that too, when you read the book, you're just not in the right moment to read that book. And
yes.
And sometimes you read when you're too young. Or
right.
Yeah. Or
it happens.
Well, this one does take dedication, I think.
Yeah.
I just got here and you're all calling me an elephant already?
I am the elephant.
You're saying dingling.
We call you Six-Pack Steve.
You're Six-Pack Steve.
So Micah is the
I am the elephant in the room because I did not complete Middlemarch within the time frame.
I'm the same way. I just couldn't get through it.
I know it's just too long for you. You need something quicker.
Yeah. Too complicated.
It's so complicated too. It's just so complicatedly written.
Steve only reads short books and
right.
There were enough pictures for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Needed,
the big font, large print.
Exactly. Large print, double spacing,
Yeah.
lots of pictures. If there's a mini series, that's even better. Which there
There
is in
is,
this
but it's
case.
awful.
But it's not good. No, so it really was one of those combinations of sort of my own mental focus at the time not being quite as sharp as it needed to be, and then sort of lots of distractions sort of keeping me from being able to fully lock in.
Yeah.
That was I'm still sort of reevaluating my own sort of reading pace and reading structure and how many books I can read at once without letting others slip off the table,
Yeah.
and really realizing how much of a single book at a time, and then also being a slow reader that I am, sort of coming off of trying to artificially push myself to be a faster reader,
I totally get that.
where I was reading the amount of books that I wanted to, but I was completely losing it on comprehension.
Yeah.
And so I've come to realize I'm a fairly slow reader, and I need to read about one book at a time to fully engross myself in it. And
Yeah.
so that's with booktube especially, that's one thing that I do find difficult, is just because there's you hear about so many books that you want to read, and
Yeah.
there's so many events that you want to participate in, and at the end of the day, for at least for me, and I'm sure for a lot of other people, it's just not feasible.
Right.
Steve, how important is Middlemarch in the English canon, do you think?
Not as important as it gets.
Mm.
And that was even before Virginia Woolf's famous quip, her famous
I love
line
it.
about it's the only thing you can guarantee if there's a new edition of Middlemarch or something
Is
like
her
that.
quote, "It's the first English novel written for adults"?
Exactly.
Is that her? Okay.
And a surefire way you know that a critic in the Times has never managed to make it all the way through Middlemarch is that they'll just toss out that quote. But I think what she meant was, I think what she meant is true. So it's a terrible shame that apparently Gen Z can't get through the thing.
Oh my God.
Although I have
read other books by George Elliot.
What was that tossed off comment that the miniseries is terrible?
It's terrible. I hate it. Steve, somebody needs to remake Middlemarch. It's terrible.
What are you talking about?
It's
got Robert
terrible.
Hardy. It's got, more importantly, Rufus Sewell.
I do like Rufus Sewell, but that miniseries is awful. Don't shake your head at me.
And
there needs to be a
have you seen the
remake.
miniseries?
Remake.
It has Robert Hardy. It has Rufus Sewell. It has the discount Firth brother. How on earth can you be criticizing it?
I love those actors. There's some amazing actors in that miniseries, but the actual production of it is awful. It starts off with Lydgate's story, and that totally, no, don't do that. Start off with Dorothea Brooke and just kind of do it the way it was written. No.
Well,
Thumbs down on that one.
I wouldn't look forward to a 2024 remake because it'll be worse. It'll be a lot worse.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, book remakes haven't been very good recently.
No, I know. Oh, the last Persuasion with Dakota Johnson was abysmal.
It was
awful.
It's a shame too. I was looking forward to it, and then just.
I know, me too. It was awful.
It did not hold at all.
No.
Not that I'm in a position to say, since I don't care about any visual productions other than Boy Kills World. So if there's a remake of Middlemarch, Will Ladislaw is going to have to punch someone through the brain. As far as I can remember, he doesn't do that in the book.
He does not.
Whereas
it's interesting.
Punching people through the brain in Boy Kills World is practically the way characters say hello. Everybody does it.
Yeah, everybody. All the cool kids do it. Now, one of the interesting things, Steve, when you brought up that quote by Virginia Woolf, is Eliot had a lot of disdain and sarcasm for women writers, and she was intent on not being that stereotypical flighty, fluffy, romantic woman writer because there were so many of them in her day, and she had nothing but spite for them. And I think that's one of the reasons she wrote the way she did, was because she was determined to show her smarts and to show, how intellectual she was, but just how brilliant she was, and she couldn't stand it. So I think that's where a lot of the realism comes in, and a lot of the reason why that's how she wrote, and she was going
And
to make
also
her
the
mark.
reason why she used the name George.
She used the name George when she first started writing because she did not want to get out there as a woman. And her husband, quote unquote, his first name was George, and so she picked it, and she got scenes of clerical life out there under George Elliot, and everybody started theorizing this. Who are all of these, clerics that are being written about? And everybody was trying to determine what part of the countryside she was writing about. And people had suspicions. And when she was publishing, her husband, George Lewes, who was married to somebody else, was acting as her literary manager. So he was putting her out there as a man. And even the publishers were wondering, what? Wait a minute, this is kind of fishy. And she was kind of, Charles Dickens actually publicly theorized that, I think this is a woman. And
Oh, interesting.
yeah, and then she came out when she came out with Adam Bede, her first full-length novel. Then it was snowballing in the public eye of, we don't think this is a dude. And so yeah, it was really interesting that it was kind of a scandal. It was kind of just the literary world wondering who this writer was. So
Was
fun
she
stuff.
successful in her time?
She was, but before she started writing her novels, she was doing a lot of things. She was a translator. She was a magazine writer. She was an intellectual. She worked for her supposed lover was her magazine publisher, supposedly. And she did a lot of different things. She was in the art world. She attended literary salons and that type of thing. Wrote a lot of articles, translated a lot of stuff, wrote a lot of very esoteric stuff. And then she realized, I'm going to try my hand at the novel. And she did.
Steve, wasn't she also a critic?
I don't have books in my background. I'm the only one who doesn't have books in my background.
How dare you?
That's because they're all on Kindle.
God, what a fraud.
All on 14 of your Kindles.
Exactly. You just need a stack of iPads behind you.
Yeah, exactly.
You were one to talk. Oh my God.
You could hang them from the ceiling surrounded by twinkle lights.
Anthony Trollope originally thought that the author was my dad until he met her and realized, oh no.
And he realized he was way off.
No. Although when it came to it, she didn't have the strength of her convictions, at least not to whine in private. No. One thing to scorn the fluffy lady novelists of your day, but if you're going to do that by posing as a man and so-called writing like a man, you shouldn't be able to complain in private that you can't match their sales numbers.
Yeah, exactly. She actually helped. She helped her stepson. Trollope helped her stepson get a job with the Postal Service. It's fun fact.
Oh, that's interesting.
So what is our success ratio here for the four of us in terms of this book?
I love it.
So Micah did not make its way through. I'm gathering that Kim and I both read it more than once.
Correct.
Yes.
And for me, it was the first read. So
how many times have you read it, Steve?
I don't know. No idea.
Is it one you revisit frequently?
Frequently, yeah. Frequently. I have no idea how many times I've read it in whole or in part. No idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also read it in print and listen to the Juliet Stevenson audio, which is just sublime. I can't say enough about that audiobook.
Steve, if somebody would come to you and say, I just read Middlemarch, what's a good book that I could read now that is a bit similar? Do you have an idea?
Well, I have an idea, but it's a preference, not a progression. I would send them straight to the more ambitious and maybe a little bit less commercial big books of Trollope.
Yeah.
Go if you liked Middlemarch, you will probably like The Way We Live Now. I would think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I must read that this year. I have it. I want to read it.
And Trollope and
awesome.
Eliot were contemporaries, is that correct?
Yes.
Trollope and Eliot and me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Steve
Yep.
and Dickens.
Steve was reviewing their newest books.
It's pure
Yeah.
track.
Yeah. I think at one point George Elliot and her George Lewes lived down the road from Charles Darwin.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Whole world.
They knew a lot of people. They knew so many people.
Yeah, but if he was a publisher, that's kind of normal that you meet a lot of people. So
Right.
yeah, it's and probably they had also very interesting life because they lived together, but they weren't married. He was married to somebody else, and
He was married to somebody else, and his legal wife had several children with her lover.
yeah.
And yeah, and George Eliot, Marianne Evans referred to herself as Mrs. Lewes, and she took part in financially supporting his illegitimate children with
Oh, interesting.
his wife's lover.
Well,
Yeah.
everything to keep the peace.
She was with him
Quite
for
a
25
complicated
years.
family.
Happy wife, happy life.
Yeah.
That's something like your own arrangement, Micah. Isn't it? It's
Exactly.
sounding awful familiar.
He has children everywhere, everywhere.
Yes. Oh, it's a mess.
But she was with him for 25 years, and then he died. She didn't get legally married until she was 60, and she married a 40-year-old
Yeah.
who was her family's financial advisor. And she didn't.
wow.
They weren't even married a year when she died.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
She was a very interesting character for sure.
Yeah, must be. So it was probably also very much a scandal figure. She must have been
Yeah,
often in the news and in the gossip papers, and
absolutely.
a bit
That's
like
really
Steve on
interesting.
BookTube.
A lot like
Exactly.
Steve.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Exactly. Was she so she was like a recognized public figure
Yes.
in her circles?
Yes.
Interesting.
She made a lot of money for the time. By the time she wrote Middlemarch, they were pretty wealthy.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We have only 3 minutes left.
Oh man.
Do you want to say something, Steve?
I want to ask you what it was like to read it the first time, but that's not going to be 3 minutes.
Quickly.
I already elaborated. It was very fun for me because I think she was very witty, very intelligent, and I think I really love writers from that era. The realism is an era that is a genre that I really like, really enjoy. And it was it was like a sort of homecoming in a way. The village life, I see a lot of people around me that are a bit the same or remind me of her. So it's definitely a book that is still very accurate and very relevant. And for me, it was really a joy to read, and I'm absolutely going to read other stuff by her.
So this was not only your first read of Middlemarch, but your first George Elliot?
Yes.
And did you read it in English?
Yes.
Huh.
Yes.
Do you see yourself rereading Middlemarch?
Yes, but it was sometimes a bit of a challenge because although I'm used to reading in English, sometimes in Dutch, I had a Dutch copy on we can still continue. We have a couple of minutes left. So yeah, I read it mostly in English, and if I found it a bit too difficult and I thought it was not very clear, I went to a Dutch version of it. So yeah, that's it. My
Dinging at you.
alarm is going on. So Micah, do you have anything to say? Well, what are we reading right now, actually?
I am currently reading The First American, biography of Benjamin Franklin. sent to me by Steve.
Oh,
I realized there was a new Apple TV show about Benjamin Franklin that came out, and I wanted to watch it, but I haven't read anything biography-wise about Franklin, so I'm reading that first.
okay.
The Michael Douglas Benjamin Franklin miniseries, no fist punching through heads. None.
I'm sorry. I know it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
And Kim, what are you reading right now?
I am reading a translated novel, Will and Testament, and I don't know how to pronounce her name, by Vigdis North.
Vigdis Hjort.
Yes, her.
Yeah.
And I'm also rereading The Two Towers by Tolkien.
Oh, nice.
Really? Okay.
I can't. I'm in my glory right now, rereading The Lord of the Rings. Absolutely love it.
Well, for you,
Steve, what 20 books have you read today?
I read, oh wow, it just started to rain. I reread Tarzan, Lord of the Jungle first thing this morning. And then I read an indie book about EMP survivors who got out of town and are living in their cabin, and the outlying city, obviously Denver, is starting to realize that they have resources, and so they're starting to have to fend off their neighbors. And now I'm reading this, Shylock's Venice, about the Jewish ghetto of Venice centuries ago. But I'm curious about, Anne, you said that when you hit a rough patch in Middlemarch, you went back to the Dutch?
Yeah.
To try to clarify.
Yeah.
That reminded me of a friend of mine a long time ago was teaching Middlemarch to a whole bunch of very reluctant high school students who were just hitting the wall of Eliot's grammar and diction, the rhythm of her prose. They're just hitting the wall of it. And I was talking with my friends about it. I was saying, well, surely you found a way to show them how wonderful it is. And he revealed here over wine and calzones for the first time in all the time I'd known him that he hates Middlemarch. And when he revealed that, he said, well, I think they'd probably have a lot better luck if they could read it in the original German. No. Oh, no. Is it that bad? I had no idea. I wonder how many teachers are out there teaching this thing who hate
Sometimes I missed the nuance a bit, and then when I tried that part in Dutch and then reread it in English, then I got it, and then I understood what she was trying to achieve. Sometimes you need a
Well, there's a lot of nuance missing going on here. A lot of nuance missing going on in this conversation. The nuance is so much from Micah that he decided to drop the whole thing.
Yeah, it was.
And Kim missed the nuances of the miniseries.
Very clearly.
Will Ladislaw in an open shirt, in an open lace shirt.
I know.
Do you need a house to fall on you?
I told you, Rufus Newell I love, and I loved him in Young Victoria too. He was pretty good in that as well.
Yeah.
But isn't he who is playing Prince? Who was the one with the much younger girl? Prince Philip? No, from the UK.
I don't know.
I'll field this one to Steve.
Oh, the prince that got into.
You're not talking about The Crown
because of having sex with a teenage girl.
Prince Andrew.
Andrew,
Yeah,
he's
Andrew.
playing Andrew.
I did not know that.
I hope
Is there a
not.
movie about Andrew coming out?
Yeah.
Oh, brother.
Oh,
Ooh. Oh, no.
Apparently, it's amazing. The makeup is amazing.
The director went to Rufus Sewell and said, for this part, you're going to have to play the role of an older man who has sex with a teenage girl. And Rufus Sewell said,
I don't like that.
I think I
don't
can
like that at all. This should be an automatic no, thank you.
It'll be a stretch, but I think I could get myself in that headspace.
No, thank you.
I did not know there was a movie being made. I can't wait to see it.
I feel like there's some stories that don't need to be made into a movie.
I agree.
Just
I agree.
Bill,
not
you
every
wanna see
celebrity
how-
needs that.
Will they do the interview? Surely the whole point of the show will be to do the famous interviews that he gave. And I want
I'm
to see how
sure.
somebody would dramatize the interview.
Me
No.
having a party? No, it was just a hunting get around, or what was it? A hunting
The
gathering.
interview where he tells an interviewer, well, you see, I couldn't have had sex with that underage girl on Epstein's sex island because she said I was sweating profusely. And you see, I'm not able to sweat.
Yeah.
I was watching it live while it was being broadcast. I was thinking, that's what you're concentrating on?
Yeah. I know, right?
That's your excuse? An easily
Yeah.
disprovable medical anomaly?
Oh, well.
Oh,
So,
Well, Rufus Sewell just had a hit for a few seasons, right? What was the name of the show he was in about the Nazis winning the war?
The Man in the High Castle?
The Man in the High Castle.
Yes,
That's right.
yes.
That's right. He's had amazing luck in his whole career. He has always managed to land a project that will keep going.
yeah, he's a
And
great
he's
actor.
Also a talent. That's also a talent.
Yeah, great actor, very cute.
Yeah.
And wonderful in
He'll get you
Middlemarch.
far.
He was wonderful in Middlemarch. He was one of the only 3 people that I liked in that movie.
The actress who plays Dorothea Brooke is wonderful in that show.
Ugh,
And
no.
what about the actor who plays my favorite character, Bulstrode? He's fantastic.
See, I told you some of the actors are great. Bulstrode was perfect, and I did happen to like Fairbrother, and I thought Rosamund Vinci played that. She played that perfectly.
But you didn't like the discount Firth brother.
No.
What is this world coming to?
So we will have to wrap it up. Our time has come to say goodbye. Kim, you were wonderful, and I hope we can ask you if you want to be a host next year again. We will find you a great book if you
absolutely
are looking for it. And we hope you guys to see us for Les Misérables.
Yes.
Victor Hugo, a wonderful, wonderful book. The discussions that are going on Discord are wonderful. So please, you don't even have to read the book. It's wonderful and very interesting. We have discussions on translations, and sometimes one word that can tip the whole book in a different way. So yeah, very interesting. So
yeah,
please join us, and I hope we will see you again for another meeting with this time with Elizabeth from Bouquin Books, Steve, and of course Micah and myself. Kim, you were the best host ever. We really appreciated your time and effort. And
thank you so much. I thank you for asking me. I loved it.
Yeah. So bye-bye, everybody, and talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.